Elizabeth Warren and CNN accuse Trump of breaking the law as second-term hysteria begins. They're starting already. The man ain't even stepped foot in the White House yet, and they already saying that he's breaking laws. These people are crazy. They're never going to allow him to govern, which is ridiculous because everyone supports his ideas. Everyone supports this administration, except for the global elites and the far leftists. But we're going to talk a little bit about it. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button. Share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. And hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account, so follow me there as well. All right, so let's get into this news. Now, this comes from the Red State, from Banchi, and they report that it hasn't even been a week since Donald Trump won his sweeping re-election victory, and the press and Democrats are already teaming up to accuse him of breaking the law. You can't make this stuff up. On Monday, the left-wing network put out a report the president-elect had not yet signed ethics agreements regarding the transition, and Senator Elizabeth Warren quickly chimed in, claiming that illegality is afoot, all because he didn't sign some ethics paper yet, which he's not in the White House yet. It's far from him. He still has a couple months until he's in the White House. So give this man some time to look it over and fill it out. I mean, just because he didn't fill it out yet doesn't mean he did anything illegal. Because again, he hasn't been sworn in or anything yet. So what is she even harping about? These people are crazy. But here's the tweet right here from Elizabeth Warren. She said, Donald Trump and his transition team are already breaking the law. I would know because I wrote it. I wrote the law. Yeah, right. Incoming presidents are required to prevent conflicts of interest and sign an ethics agreement. This is what illegal corruption looks like. Again, if he was in the White House already and didn't sign it, I could understand you saying something. But she's making a much to do about nothing, really. But the chances that Warren actually wrote the law in question here are about zero. Very few, if any, modern-day senators sit down at their desks and write laws. Instead, they are usually put together by an unholy alliance of staffers and lobbyists. But what's underneath the hood here? That's what CNN attempted to get into with this report, which is a preview of the hysteria to come. It says President-elect Donald Trump has not yet submitted a series of transition agreements with the Biden administration, in part because of concerns over the mandatory ethics pledge vowing to avoid conflicts of interest once sworn into office, CNN has learned. As president, Trump repeatedly came under fire from ethics groups for potential conflicts of interest relating to his businesses and brands. Both Trump's and his family foreign business ties have also come under insane scrutiny throughout the time in office and on the campaign trail. There's a bit more to this, and it's not immediately apparent to me that any laws are being broken by not signing these agreements, but it's the second paragraph I want to stop and can comment on. Let's be clear. No one cares. That's a fact. We care about this economy. We don't care anything about some paperwork that you claim he hadn't filled out yet. But this isn't 2017 anymore. The days of the press making hay by quoting ethics groups, crying that Trump's business enterprise continues to make money, are over. Voters went to the polls last Tuesday and handed Democrats a sweeping defeat because they are sick of the nation's elites obsessing over things that don't matter while normal people can't afford groceries. No one cares about Trump and his family foreign business ties. That's true, because they seem totally disinterested with Joe Biden, his ties with China, and how he was getting paid off for meetings and things like that, and his family selling influence. They could care less about that. They certainly don't care about the left making more accusations of criminality after the last 2 years of lawfare and assassination attempts. Trump and his transition team are already behind in assessing key transition briefings from the Biden administration, as they have failed to sign a pair of agreements to unlock critical information before taking over the federal government in 72 days. The holdup revolves in part around the mandatory agreement over ethics issues. A source familiar with the process acknowledged that details are still being worked out with the Biden administration regarding the ethics agreement, which is required by law under the Presidential Transition Act, and which applies to all members of the transition team. They are behind in what way exactly? Because CNN says so, right? That's what I'm saying. It's not like he's about to get inaugurated tomorrow. He has time to fill this stuff out. Like, what are y'all talking about right now? Whenever the press posits a premise, one should always take a moment to ask whether it should even be accepted or not. Frankly, I'm not seeing much evidence that these, quote, briefings from the Biden administration are incredibly important at this moment, especially given Trump is still laying out who will actually head these various agencies. Which brings me to what this is really about. Does anyone really believe that Elizabeth Warren and CNN care about whether Donald Trump's transition team is currently getting classified briefings a few days after the election? Of course, they don't. This is about the bureaucratic class being ignored. They can't stand that. Trump's team could have begun receiving briefings from federal agencies as early as Thursday, had it signed the agreements, according to Valerie Smith Boyd, director of the Center for Presidential Transition at the nonprofit Nonpartisan Partnership for Public Service. Boyd estimated that hundreds of Trump's officials involved in the transition will need background checks to receive classified briefings. Mr. Steer, the Partnership for Public Services president and CEO, warned of severe consequences if the Trump transition continued to fail to engage with President Joe Biden's team. Quote, is it possible just to walk past all this? And the answer is that it is possible, and we're watching it happen, but the consequences are severe. Like, what are the consequences, really? It would not be possible to be ready to govern on day one without engaging in interactions with agencies about the state of play within the federal government and the world writ large. Steer said. Transition, he added, is a, quote, point of maximum vulnerability for U.S. security. This is the story we always get. Oh no, the bureaucratic class isn't getting to dictate the process. The country is going to collapse. I'm not joking. That's the impression the article goes on to give, including quoting Rep. Jamie Raskin asserting that the transition of power could be threatened. Who knew that the constitutionality mandated transfer of power is at the mercy of some ethics agreement and whether the deep state gets to brief the incoming administration? Who knew? This is all fake. You know, this is all much ado about nothing, like I said. But we all know what the latter actually means. The bureaucratic state want to assert influence, and without these briefings and these agreements, they are effectively iced out for the time being. That's not to say the Trump transition won't eventually sign them, but it's not a priority, and it shouldn't be. As to the hand-wringing about illegality, it's nonsense. Let them scream. It makes all this more enjoyable. Isn't that the truth? They're just trying to make mountains out of a molehill. It's all that's going on here. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, subscribe, and check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.